everyone, me Kevin here. So here's a complete breakdown of what we learned from the Tesla earnings call. So it's a summary of it. First, Elon Musk came out, talked about the highest demand that we have ever seen for vehicles at Tesla. That the Model 3 at Tesla is on pace to produce 250,000 vehicles. It's actually producing 250,000 vehicles at its current rate, and its rate will be at 500,000 Model 3s per year next year. So that rate of production for Model 3s is expected to double. The Model 3 currently one of the best, or actually the best selling premium sedan in the world, but expecting the Model Y, Elon said this, to become the best-selling vehicle of any time next year, but more likely by 2023, beating all other cars or trucks. Great progress on full self-driving. We'll talk more about that later. Elon talked about some of the challenges about how you need a very powerful computer using only 70 to 80 watts. Talked about how important of a step it is to eliminate the crutch of having radar as a tool that you use to sort of back up your visual or vision systems in the autonomous systems. So Elon wants a superhuman stereo video autonomous system that can basically look at 8 cameras, 35 frames per second data all at the same time, and then with context of all the cameras coming together at the same time, be able to label what's going on surrounding the vehicle and make decisions without the use of radar or certainly LiDAR. The word LiDAR wasn't even mentioned once on the call. He talked a little bit about some difficulties regarding this, also talked about some of the difficulties regarding the Model S and X, about how there were more challenges than expected. Remember, they're completely tearing out the inside, redoing the inside, they're doing the new battery, new drive units, new internal electronics, PlayStation 5 level infotainment system, and that they've had lots of issues. Elon Musk also touched on, and I thought this was a little bit weird, but basically what they're doing is, because they're not done with some of the S and X's, the first ones that they're producing, or probably the new Model S's, they're kind of backing them into the yard and then putting them back into the factory to kind of keep making modifications to them. I have to say, that struck me as a little odd. Their goal is to produce 2,000 S and X's per week, potentially as high as 24 to 2,500 S and X's. And that these, when they are done, will be superior vehicles. And they expect to get to volume soon. They expect to start deliveries next month of the S. The X will come later with new deliveries, and that they hope to get to full volume on the S and X by next year. That puts them on pace for somewhere around, let's see if we do 52 weeks times 2,000, that puts us around 104,000 vehicles on the low side per year for S and X's. That'll certainly help the average vehicle selling prices go up substantially. And on the high side, we expect potentially as many as 130,000 S and X's to be produced and built. On financials, obviously there was a big impact on profits. The big line here, so that you can do some math, was that $200 million of extra loss was baked into quarter one revenue or quarter one expenses into their cost of goods sold and automotive revenues, or I'm sorry, automotive expenditures, due to the S and X re-ramp, the retooling, cost $200 million, and that's not even to mention the lack of revenue. And despite this, automotive gross margins still went up. So in my opinion, that's really good news, but Tesla after hours after this earnings call is settling down about 2.33%. Most folks are not too excited about how the earnings call went, though this particularly, in my opinion, was a very strong moment here, and the candlesticks did start greening at the time of this reveal as well. They also indicated that research and development expenses increased because of their continued development on the 4680 cells, the new battery packs, artificial intelligence, and the S and X retooling. So it looks like you've got some operating expenses going into the S and X process itself, like the factory line retooling, but then also research and development expenses going into the S and X. So a lot of extra expenses here. They talked about trimming about 10% off their Bitcoin position, but they talked about how they do plan to still invest in Bitcoin for the long run and convert more of their vehicle purchases from Bitcoin into Bitcoin that they hold for the long run. They did sell 10%. They said that this was just for liquidity purposes, that they want something that they can easily buy and sell through. On the Dojo supercomputer, Elon Musk went into a very detailed explanation here, and I kind of gave you a little summary already with that 8-camera simultaneous labeling. That's where they want to get to in the future. Remember, we've done this before on this channel. You know those Matterport 3D scans that I show you on this channel? I love Matterport. I love the technology. Matterport does this as well, where they scan a place and then their artificial intelligence starts automatically labeling. Oh, okay, I think this is a smoke detector. Oh, that's a door. Okay, that's this or whatever. That's going to be huge for insurance purposes, right? Public company, GHVI. Well, it's a SPAC merger. But anyway, Elon is trying to do this on the fly, so like in real time as a car is moving, and then have a system be able to automatically label, okay, that's a kayak on top of a car, that's a truck on top of another truck, and be able to label these things. But these things are challenging, and so we gave some examples about how basically they're writing the software that's trying to start auto-labeling, and that trainers then go through and fact-check, no, that's not a donkey, that's a car, or whatever, and then when they make those edits, they actually help train the system even more. But basically, they expect that Dojo in the future could potentially even be used by others, but keep in mind, we did see Toyota bail on that rumor that we saw a few months ago that Toyota might want to partner with Tesla to use Tesla's autonomy system, but recently bailed on that. My assumption they bailed on that Tesla talk because Toyota instead today bought Lyft's self-driving products, which I didn't even know that Lyft had a self-driving product. On Solar Roof, they say that demand is still in excess of what they can produce. There was a question about why is it that people are getting much, being asked to basically pay double for the roof. Elon Musk kind of talked this up as being more of an issue with people's roofs, that Elon's going, or the staff's going to a roof and they're like, come on, man, like your roof is totally rotted out. It's going to cost twice as much to do this. Keep in mind, I have had this experience with Tesla myself, not on the solar roof, but on the solar panels. Basically, I asked for a panel, they come out, and the roof, in my opinion, looks fine, not leaking. I've had my roofs certified by licensed roofers. They do tune-ups on my rental properties. Tesla will go out and go, we just don't want to put a 20-year solar panel on this roof. We want you to replace the roof, or we want you to replace half the roof, or whatever. And then they give me a fat sort of contractor estimate that they can subcontract to. Tesla probably gets some decent amount of profit from doing that by taking a little bit of a spread for that referral purpose. But yeah, that's been a common issue with Tesla, is you kind of getting the upcharge bill from the contractors. But that is the nature of construction as well. So on one hand, I don't blame them. I mean, they don't want to get suckered into putting their panels or even solar roof on top of crap lumber or whatever. But and on the retrofit panels, they put a 20-year panel on a roof that only has 5 years left. I get it. That could create some problems. Anyway, in those cases, Elon Musk says they just refund deposits. Okay, fine. A big thing about the solar discussion, though, was about simplifying the installation of solar panels. And so this was a little tricky. I'm going to make this as simple as possible. And honestly, I think the easiest way to explain what Elon Musk is talking about when it comes to why Elon Musk wants the solar battery pack included in the solar system is just by doing a very quick rudimentary explanation here. So generally, if somebody wants solar panels on the roof and they have a main circuit panel over here and you want to add solar panels on the roof, you're going to have something known as an inverter that gets installed. And then generally you need a few breakers free in the panel, which when you need a few breakers free in the panel to power that or to connect with that inverter, you have to do a lot of rewiring inside of that main panel. And so what they're doing instead is saying, well, if we have a power wall and we install a power wall, so we'll just go ahead and put PW here for power wall, well, we're gonna have an actual sub panel over here for the power wall. And what we're going to do is we're just gonna feed all of the circuits that are supposed to be backed up by the, that are wiring through this panel. We're gonna splice off those, go into this sub panel, and then the power wall is going to go over here. So all of a sudden you have a very, very simple way to install solar where you don't have to screw around with rewiring the panel because you're trying to jam some new breakers in there. What you're really doing is you're just routing off of the main into this new sub panel and letting the power wall feed those circuits. Keep in mind, the power wall does not have to feed every single circuit in the house, just whatever circuits either the system was designed for. So that's my overly simplified, not an electrician here, understanding of a simplified, explanation here on what's going on. So in other words, Elon Musk is basically saying, look, it's much easier for us to install the power walls on every solar system. On top of that, we make much more money. And that's also a very good motivation. Now, Elon Musk did give a long-winded explanation about how having batteries in houses is actually really important because people are using more electricity because they have electric vehicles now, and we have bad weather that can cause more issues and more outages and more strain on systems, blah, 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 blah. Basically, Elon Musk is saying, yo, we putting power walls in now with our solar panels, like it or not, okay? It's that freaking simple. All right, we already talked about the coin, no new announcements on like Dogecoin or whatever. All right, then we get to this crash in Texas, okay? This crash in Texas, folks, this explanation was the most garbage explanation they could have possibly come up with, but I think we have a conclusion here as to what roughly they said. So, and I tweeted this as well. So roughly, our understanding is that auto steer, which is basically autopilot when you don't have the full self-driving, auto steer would have only accelerated on the road where the accident happened to 30 miles per hour. This implies, given that the car burst into flames, which you do not expect to happen at 30 miles an hour, this implies the car was not on auto steer. So it probably means somebody launched the car. Like, let's go 0 to 60, let's go. Because again, remember what I said, with that fiery crash, I'm expecting it to reveal that this car was going at least 50 to 60 miles an hour, if not even 70 to 80 miles an hour, but at least 50 to 60. So when I heard 30, I initially got a little concerned, confused. We re-listened and rethought about what was said. So that's where the 30-mile-an-hour limitation come from. So this does imply that the car was traveling faster without auto steer on. We did not get an indication of the speed of the crash, and that seatbelts were found to be unbuckled. Now, we do not know if the seatbelts were unbuckled at the beginning of when they started driving, or if the seatbelts were unbuckled after the crash. We do not know that. The seatbelts were just found unbuckled. However, there is an indication due to a deformed steering wheel that somebody was in the driver's seat at the time of the crash, which, I mean, think about it, if somebody was in the driver's seat at the time of the crash, and let's say they were unbuckled, you would probably have a lot of mass going into that steering wheel, leading to some deformment. Now, you would expect the airbag to go off, so I don't know the mechanics of airbag versus body going into airbag versus still deforming the steering wheel. I don't know. Obviously, I would expect the deforming of the steering wheel to be a lot worse if the person was not buckled up. Obviously. But we don't have that answer. And they did mention that the SD card, which does record data on the car, was not able to be recovered. However, it is they are working on trying to recover data from that SD card. Then we've got on 4680s, they dispelled some rumors about vampire drain. They talked about how lithium-ion batteries are only really 1% to 2% lithium, and that there's no shortage of iron phosphate lithium batteries. Iron phosphate batteries are the cheaper ones. The 4680 ones are the iron phosphate ones are the ones being manufactured in China. A lot of the Teslas have those. The 4680s are the new structural batteries, and those are the ones that they're trying to ramp. They're really expecting to get to volume production next year on the 4680s, but they do think, that reiterates, they do expect it's going to be 12 to 18 months, which again does align with next year. They are aiming for comparable margins. This was a big one. Comparable margins in storage as they are in vehicle, which is great because vehicle margins, they're aiming for 30%. But Elon Musk mentions, look, Megapacks Powerwalls, we're nowhere near scale yet, but we are expecting margins to eventually approach what the vehicle manufacturing margins are, which that's 20 to 30%. Honestly, that's a lot higher than the margins that I had been giving for energy. So I think that's great. However, I expect that to decline as they continue to do solar panel installs, because solar panel installs are low margin, but the batteries are higher margin. On full self-driving subscription, still working on it. Maybe they'll do recurring revenue in the future, but too soon to make any announcements on the conference call. On getting to a $25,000 vehicle, Elon Musk mentions, and the other staff mentions, look, there are many things we can do. Reducing the amounts of pieces that go into a car. Obviously, streamlining the pieces that are used in conjunction between all the different cars. Continue to find cost reduction scale, the volume of having 4 factories building the same vehicles, all that helps. And on Berlin and Austin ramp, we'll get there. No real news here. I think the big takeaway from what we got from Tesla today was really No news, unfortunately. A lot of today was no news, a big no news day for Tesla. Not so great. It's kind of more of like a hurry up and wait, and I think that's why we're seeing some negativity in the stock, especially with that average selling price declining as the S and X's aren't being produced. Obviously, when you take very expensive cars like $80,000 to $100,000 cars out of your product mix, your average selling price will naturally decline. So there you go. There you have a complete summary of what the heck happened in the earnings call, as well as a little bit with the earnings. If you found this helpful, consider sharing the video, like, subscribe, check out the amazing programs linked down below if you'd like the way I explain things on building your wealth, whether through real estate investing, stock investing, sales, making YouTube videos, property management, rental renovations. You can even bundle them all together. That coupon code is expiring soon. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I appreciate you all. I'm off to play Minecraft with Jack now. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one.